Welcome back. It's time to talk awards for excellence, and now it's the Nigerian Prize for Science and the Nigeria Prize for Literature awards. They are Nigerian Science and Literary Awards presented annually since 2004. The award is sponsored by Nigeria LNG in partnership with the Nigerian Academy of Science and the Nigeria Academy of Letters. The 2014 awards is here, and we have in the studio some of the candidates and of course the representative from the Nigeria LNNG. On my left.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah,
and it confuses. It's a
yes.
tongue twister as well. NLNG.
Okay, we have the General Manager Relations, External Relations of the NLNG.
Yeah. You've got to be careful the way you pronounce it.
Yes, so Dr. Kudo Eresia AK, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
I'm glad to be here.
And we have one of the candidates, Friday John Abba, who is of the Aleku Night Dance.
No, he wrote the Aleku Night Dance.
Okay. And then we have Jude Idada.
Pleasure being here.
You wrote Odudua, King of the Edos. Okay, we'll be talking all about that. And of course, we have Professor Sam Ukala, Iredi War. Okay, let me start with you. What is the Iredi War about?
Well, Iredi War is about the 1906 insurgency in Owa Kingdom. Owa is in Delta State of Nigeria, and it's against the British colonial rule of that time. The corruption of that time was very high-handed and oppressive. Not in total, not from the beginning. There was one A.A. Chichester who was a district commissioner. He knew the rules of indirect rule, and he educated the Owa monarch on how indirect rule worked, and he kept to the tenets of indirect rule. But he went on leave, and a few weeks after he went on leave, Owa was up in arms against his own man who took over from him, his assistant, because that assistant, O.S. Crew-Reed, became very high-handed and oppressive.
Okay.
He wanted to rule not only Owa directly, but also to rule the king of Owa directly.
Okay, now let me quickly go to Jude. Tell us about the Odudua, King of the Edos.
Yeah, Odudua, King of the Edos, it's a comparative dramatic analysis of the identity of Odudua being, like I said, the progeny of the Yoruba race and then an exiled prince of the Edo race. So it's a what-if dramatic analysis where I pit or I place side by side the two accounts, the two belief systems of these two people. It comes all the way from, will I say, antiquity, in terms of who Odudua was, what he stood for, where he came from. And you see, when you look at the personage of Odudua, you hear accounts bringing him from Mecca. I was even surprised during my research to have accounts bringing him from the Igbos, as in from the East. So what I basically did, owing from my reading of the autobiography of the Oba of Benin, was just pit what he had said in terms of saying Odudua was a crown prince called a Kaleduro who was exiled and had gone west and found the Ife people. So I took that account, I researched to find out what it was really about, and then I did the same thing for the Yoruba people.
Was there any truth in that there is a possibility, no matter how remote, that Odudua might have had his ancestry in Benin or in the Edo area?
Well, I do not want to say, I do not want to place myself in between that.
No, maybe remote possibility.
Yes, there is. As they say, everybody has a right to their history, you know what I mean, to their belief system. So yes, to the Edo man, it's not a remote possibility. It's clear and present. To the Yoruba, the possibility or the identity of Yoruba, of Odudua having descended from heaven is also clear and present. So let's not use the word remote. Let's say these two people believe 100% about what they believe. So all I'm doing as an artist is trying to allow us, the viewer or the reader, who is either a Yoruba or an Edo or being from wherever you are, just come towards that argument with an open mind. Look at what Jude has done through the
taking
play.
full advantage of
Yeah,
your
and
literary
just-
license.
Exactly.
Okay, now
Literary license,
let's
right?
hear from Mr. Abba about the Aleku night dance.
Well, Aleku night dance, I consider it an allegorical play, depicting a young woman who was raped and murdered, and then the crisis the whole crime generated, how in search for revenge, you had other people, coming up to use the, permit me to use the phrase, to counter revenge and all that, and how the entire society was consumed. It's complete fiction. There are no facts in the book except for the the existence of the Aleku, who is supposed to be a kind of recompensing spirit among the Idoma people. And while it may sound like an epic, it's not that kind of a historical legend, because for the Idoma people, Aleku is still present. And then
Would you say the story is tragic at the end of it?
well, the story has several tragedies within it, so not just at the end.
So
it opened with a tragedy and closed
did
with a near tragedy.
a near tragedy. So if it is turned into a film, we should expect a tearjerker.
Yeah,
Something that will make people kind of weep a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Let me come to Dr. Iresi Aike. All of this literary work, why do you think, we should reward them?
Why do you think we should reward the literary works? Well, you encourage what you want people to do. If you want people to move in a certain direction, you encourage that direction. Now, if you want Nigeria to move towards excellence, you encourage excellence. And that's what Nigeria LNG is doing. Essentially, we have picked two basic prizes: the Nigeria Prize for Science and the Nigeria Prize for Literature. Why did we pick those? Because in today's world, you have to read before you can develop. Indeed, I would often say that any one organization that's serious about development of any country needs to look in the direction of education. And out of education, you pick literature, which is what we have done, because we need to get people to get into the reading culture. We excite writing, and then we encourage the writers. So today, we're very glad to record the burgeoning of literature in Nigeria. And I would say that the level of sophistication that is coming into writing or into the prize is something that the writers themselves can attest to and probably tell you about. Something of great interest is that a young girl who was about 7 at the time we instituted the prize was so inspired by this prize and kept on working that I'm so glad to say that out of over 100 entries in today's in 2014 prize, we had a short list of 11, of course from a long way back to 11. And this girl, now 17, made the last 11. She's not here today, but that is just gives you an idea of the level of the inspiration that we are having the young people get hung up to.
I'm quite curious, what did she write about?
What did she write about? Yeah, she wrote a little bit about what's happening in the diaspora and how Nigerians are coping, the kinds of cultures and clash of cultures, because Nigerians immersed in those cultures, and how they still have to be Nigerian, retain their roots, and still struggle, if you like, with the climate and the culture of those kinds of environments.
So in terms of the top number of people that you would have, or the highest number of people you will have that have the potential or possibility of winning this award, what will they be? Is it the top 5 or the top 3 that we have here, or you've got the top 10?
What happens, from over 100, you come to a list of 50. In other words, you've eliminated the ones that didn't make that list. Then from there, you get into the list of 11. And then from the list of 11, you get into the list of 3. So the next stage is the winner.
Do we have the list of 3 here? This 3.
The people you see,
okay,
they made it to the top 3.
Okay.
So one of them is going to emerge the winner.
So what exactly do you look out for in the candidates?
It's really the judges. Every year, we pick judges through the advisory board. We pick judges that are specialists, that are well known, that are renowned in that area. For instance, where there's some years where we encourage people to write prose fiction. There are other years where we encourage people to write drama, like in this year. Other years we do poetry. And like next year, for instance, we're going to get into children's literature. So you pick the experts, the very best you can find, the finest in those areas, and they become judges. Yeah. And they would have undisputed reputation. Yeah. Not only do you pick the judges, you also find consultants from across the country, from outside of the country, yeah, who would need to then work with these judges independently, though. So whatever these judges eventually arrive at would have an independent professor or scholar somewhere else who would also be judging. So at the end of the day, we'll compare both. Now, what happened last year was that the judgment, the final judgment of the judges in Nigeria coincided precisely with the judgment of the judge that happened at the time to have come from Ghana. Yeah. So just to ensure that there is the highest level of integrity maintained, and by the way, this is Africa's #1. It's Africa's numero uno as far as literature prize is concerned. And some would tell you that it is the...
What makes it so?
Well, maybe the writers can tell you better. In terms of prize money, and in terms
Which is how much?
How much?
$100,000 US.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. So the other prizes
I'll write
you hear
a book
about
next year.
yeah, well, nothing to talk about the other prizes that you hear about, really. Some people would say it's the second biggest literary prize in the whole